So this is part 3 of my Tolkien lecture review thing book. Where is the book? Where the fuck is it? This one, again. Let's get it focused on my face. I'll show you more pictures of that. So this is the third video in the Monsters and the Critics series of videos. There'll be one more next week. And that'll be the last one, and then I'll get on to other things. But this one, titled, Not a Narrative, but a Balance of Opposites. Beowulf, one of the greatest poems of all time, but did you know that some scholars argue that it's not even a popular narrative? Kleber said the poem lacks a steady advance, but if it was never meant to, what if Beowulf isn't about linear storytelling, but about balance, beginnings and endings, triumph and death, youth and old age? I mean, sure, he starts the story of Beowulf is young, and of course he's in his dotage at the end. So let's break it down. Okay. Where are we? Beowulf doesn't follow a traditional arc of an epic. Instead, it is split into two major sections, lines 1 to 2199. Beowulf in his youth, full of strength, defeating Grendel and his mother. There's even been arguments that the whole Grendel's mother episode is utterly pointless. It just wasn't necessary. We get more screen time with Grendel and the dragon, and we get, you know, hardly anything with Grendel's mother, and it kind of seems a little bit pointless that it's even in there. Or maybe there was actually more to it, and it just got lost over the years. The second part would be lines 2200 to 3182, which is the last one. Beowulf in old age, facing his final challenge with the dragon. Sure. These aren't just two random battles, there are mirrors of each other, showing the rise and fall of a hero. Before he fights Grendel, he'd built up a bit of a reputation for being bigger, stronger, faster, fucking $6 million man, you know, strength of 30 men, all that kind of thing. A swimming match, which Ecgtheow kind of says that he lost, so he couldn't really be that great. He goes on to tell Ecgtheow that he had to fight off some freaking sea serpents at the same time. You know, 7 days. How'd you swim straight for 7 days? Jeez, I can't do it for 5 minutes. So Tolkien pointed out in one of the poem's debated moments, the long recap. So once Beowulf has killed the mother, goes back to the land of the Geats, to Geatland, he does this whole recap of what happened, and it kind of seems pointless as you're reading through the narrative that you go through this massive recap. It almost feels like television episodes and we get a recap of what happened the previous week. It's like a medieval version of Previously on Beowulf. Yeah. Did the poet really need to retell everything? Maybe not. But here's a theory. Beowulf may have been performed over multiple days. It might not have been just one big performance that lasted God knows how freaking long. Maybe he did the half, got Grendel's mother out of the way, and then that's when he ended it. Came back the next day and did it again, and Beowulf telling Ecgtheow, Higlak, about what happened was more of a recap for the audience than anything else. The rhythm of Beowulf. Beowulf is the most successful Old English poem because its elements, language, meter, theme, and structure all work together. I do like the way Tolkien puts this stuff. A lot of people misunderstand Old English meter. It's not a fixed rhythm like modern poetry. Instead, it's based on a balance of opposites. Each line has two halves roughly equal in weight, creating a steady musical flow. The structure isn't weak, it's inevitable, like Thanos. But why a dragon? But why a dragon? Is this the reason why The Hobbit has Smaug? Was he that far influenced into this? He even refers to Smaug in The Hobbit as a worm. And of course the dragon is referred to as a worm in Beowulf as well, but then again, as Tolkien translated it. Guarding a hoard of gold in a mountain, And in Beowulf, the dragon is guarding a hoard of gold in a barrow. Yeah. Beowulf's final foe had to be something beyond human. Not a rival king, not a Swedish prince, but a dragon, a mystical elemental force. Tolkien said, nowhere does a dragon come in precisely where it should. But in Beowulf, its placement is perfect. Okie dokie. It does kind of come out of nowhere, to be fair. I mean, nowadays, if we were to write this story, whether it be a fiction or a TV show or a movie, there would need to have been some kind of idea that this thing existed, right? If you just have this dragon appear at the end of the movie for no fucking reason, it makes no freaking sense. Like the 2007 Beowulf, when there's just a dragon at the end, again, it makes no freaking sense. Although they tried to imply that the dragon was his son that he had with Grendel's mother, because in the 2007 Robert Zemeckis movie, he doesn't kill Grendel's mother, he sleeps with her. Yeah, whatever. Some critics complain that Beowulf fights monsters in both halves. But what's the alternative? Ending on a random Swedish invasion? What would feel completely out of place? By starting and ending with monsters, the poem maintains a symmetry. It has balance. You can't have... You start the first half where he fights Grendel and then the Grendel's mother, and then you end on a Swedish invasion. So you have these folklorish monsters that he's fighting, and then we fight people. Or you start off with fighting people and then end on the dragon. The dragon doesn't make any sense. But if you're fighting Grendel and Grendel's mother and then a dragon, you're escalating the creatures, you're escalating the monsters, and it has a better narrative, I think. It's not a simple victory story, it's a poetic cycle, a balance of life and death. And the poem reminds us, a man can only die on his death day. I really like that. It's like you're preordained, and maybe that's what this story is about. Maybe the story is about just his fate to die fighting a fucking dragon. Final thoughts. So is Beowulf a straightforward narrative? Not really. It's not a straightforward narrative as we see it today in modern fiction, and it's definitely not a kind of like a conventional narrative with Old English poetry, apparently. Is it an epic? Tolkien doesn't think so, although we do refer to it as epic poetry, but epic poetry is just Old English, Old Norse, heroes, battles, that sort of thing. He says it's something more. A heroic elegiac poem. A story that celebrates the hero's triumph while leading us inevitably to his death. And that's what makes it one of the most powerful poems ever written, according to Tolkien. And I honestly don't disagree. The first time I read a copy, which is this one here, this is the first copy of Beowulf that I read, and this was only read like 6 months ago. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I have tons of fiction behind me, but I never read these books here and continuously think about it. I normally read it through, get to the end, find out what happened. The butler did it, and then I move on to the next one. I don't usually think about it too much. But when I read Beowulf, when I read that, I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I wanted to learn more about it, and so I bought fucking loads of books. Some about just England, some about Vikings, and I wanted to learn about this stuff, so I started just buying up tons of books. And me being me, I wanted older books. And maybe that's what makes it one of the greatest, most powerful poems ever written. Maybe the fact that when you read it, you can't not think about it. You can't not want to know more. Maybe it's because I'm English. Maybe it's because of that. I don't know. I just feel like, yeah. Anyway, this was part 3 in my Tolkien 1936 lecture videos. There will be one more of these up next week, and then we'll move on to other things. So if you did like this video, like and subscribe, leave comments, because I want to know what you think about this as well. Yeah, and I will see you next week. Oh, the fuck, the light just died. See? Fate, man. Everything dies in the end. I'm going to go because I want to. Goodbye.